Great. So Peter, thank you very much for being so keen to participate in this project. Even though you're not a health practitioner, it sounds like some of your experiences and your, I guess, role and what you're going to be doing with Safe Steps is still quite relevant in terms of responding to other victim survivors. So I think what we're trying to do is really focus on, I guess, health practitioners, but more broadly, people who respond to it, who might also have lived experience, and understanding a bit more about how that lived experience might impact on the way you do the work.
Yep.
And also the kinds of supports that workplaces might need to have in place to make sure that people can do that work effectively, particularly if they are a survivor themselves, and some of the things that might need to be taken into account in order for that to be, for them to be able to do that in a way that is protective and practice self-care and all those kind of important things.
Yep.
So I don't have too many structured questions, but maybe particularly given that you're not actually in health, if you could tell me a bit about, the work context in which you have or will be responding to survivors, and just how that's come up in the role.
So I'm sure you know a lot about Safe Steps and the work they actually do.
Yeah.
So my placement will be predominantly on the phones with the clients coming in who are in the emergency situations in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they know about my history because I did bring it up in an interview with them. So I went through it all with them to explain that while I've gone through it, it's not actually got a hold on me and I don't get triggered anymore.
Yeah.
But as a precaution for all their staff, not just anyone who's experienced it, they do things like they have on-site counsellors for both clients and workers.
Yeah.
So if something big does come up and it does affect you, you can just go have a 5, 10, however long minute sit-down session with one of the counsellors and just hash it out and, just talk about things that are bugging you.
Yeah. So to date, then, it's correct that you've actually not done any responding yet, but it's something you're going to be doing when you commence that role with Safe Steps?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of talking hypothetically what you think would be affecting that work when you do start. So that's fine. We can talk about that as well. So I guess, and you don't have to go into a huge amount of detail about your own experiences really, but it's more just about how your own lived experience, how you think it might impact on the work that you'll be doing at Safe Steps. And that might not necessarily be a negative impact. It might be a positive one. Just any way that you think that's going to influence the way you might do the job.
Well, in the start, I didn't actually have any desire to do any kind of community service work whatsoever. So ever since I went through all that stuff with my ex, it made me want to help people, but it took me a while to work out that this was the sort of thing I wanted to do to help others who have gone through it.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of help from friends, another ex-boyfriend. I've spoken to CASA and counsellors and stuff, and it's made me realise that while I know it's going to be mentally and emotionally a very tough industry to be in, it'll be very much worthwhile for those that I can actually help.
Yeah.
And so it's just motivated me to want to do it, but also made me hyper aware of the fact that I'm going to have to do regular intensive self-care to not burn out from it.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's something that a lot of people have raised, actually, the importance of that self-care and having room within the workplace to be able to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. So is there anything else? That's fantastic, that sort of desire to help other women who might be in a similar situation to what you were in. But are there any other ways that you feel your work might be impacted by your own experiences?
I might struggle in dealing with people who have gone through the exact same stuff I've gone through, so a lot of the gaslighting and mental stuff, because I didn't have as much physical abuse as a lot of women go through, But even now, I come across friends who are going through similar things, and it immediately takes me back to that time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't create that same fear and freezing sensation it used to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just very much, it takes you back into that moment, and it just reiterates that this is something I need to do for me and for others.
Yeah. Some people have said, and I don't know whether you agree with this, that in some ways having lived experience can actually mean you're better at your job in some ways when you're responding?
I think it does, because you can connect with that person that's going through it in that moment, and you can understand exactly what they're going through, and therefore you can feel it, you can empathise and sympathise with them, and it makes you more determined to help them because you know exactly what they're going through.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you know, people said things like, you know, sometimes when you haven't had lived experience, people can respond in all levels of the community, really, not just in health, but, you know, why doesn't she leave, and all of those things that we know are not helpful. And that, you know, by having lived experience, you know very well why she doesn't leave.
Yeah, there's a big one. The big question is always, why doesn't she just leave him?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that simple.
No. So how about anything that you think, I mean, other than the obvious need for self-care and being a bit careful, I guess, around people who might have had experiences that are really similar to what you went through, is there anything else that you think would be challenging about doing the work as a survivor yourself?
Probably the whole, when the woman reaches that point of wanting to get out, knowing that she should get out, and then she ends up going back to him and then leaving him and then going back to him and just repeating that cycle, and then it ends up going really horribly wrong for them. I can see myself potentially getting a bit frustrated with people down the track if they're the same people coming back to us for help and then going back in and just not learning from it.
Yeah, which of course is going to happen.
Yeah, yes it is. Like, I can understand it and everything, but if it's happened 10, 20 times and they keep going back, I know it will frustrate me, because you just want to help them and make them understand that they really do need to leave for their own safety, for good.
Yeah.
But it can't always be done.
Yeah. And I suppose, like, Safe Steps, obviously, you know, is a specialised service, particularly for family and domestic violence. And so you would hope that everybody who works there from the top down has a real understanding of the complexity of this issue and the things that are needed in order to respond, you know, as opposed to like a hospital where you would get varying degrees of knowledge and education across the staff that work there.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's a bit tricky for you to answer, but and particularly because you haven't actually worked there yet. But we're interested, I guess, in more of that stuff around what is needed in a workplace. And you mentioned the supervision and counselling for workers, which is fabulous. Are there any other things, for instance, around, you know, flexibility, mental health days, all like things that you might need to look after yourself?
They have told me that they are very big on mental health days if you need them. No questions asked. If you say you need one, you take it. They're a very strong group of women who will do anything for each other to help each other out, to make sure that this line of work doesn't burn you out and that everyone gets the most out of it, especially the clients. Not having worked there yet, it is hard to pick if there's anything that they aren't doing that they should.
Yeah.
But from the conversations I've had with them already, it seems like there's very few gaps that need filling there.
How about, you know, your experiences as a patient, say, in a health setting? Have there been any things that you've observed where, you know, someone has perhaps responded either in a really good way or not so good way to you, if you were ever accessing services, you know, as a patient, and needing to disclose your experiences. Can you think of any things from that perspective that you think health organisations should be doing?
Well, a lot of the stuff that I went through was when I was trying to get an appointment with CASA. Unfortunately, they are always massively understaffed, so they can't always take your calls or get the appointments that you need.
I know.
And when I accessed them, it took 2 weeks to actually properly get in touch with them, and then another 6 months before I could actually get an appointment with them. So just easier access is a major one for any victim or survivor. But apart from that, probably the first person I spoke to was a guy, which was very strange when you've just gone through that. But when I ended up getting a woman to speak to, a female counsellor, she was sweet, but she reminded me of my grade 1 teacher a bit in that she was all sweet and, oh, that's so terrible, honey, I'm so sorry you went through that, and that's not what I needed to hear in the moment. I didn't need her sympathy or her being all sweet and lovey-dovey towards me. I just needed to get it out there and be able to state what had happened and have her understand without basically turning into a big pile of mush in front of me.
Yeah, I totally can understand where you're coming from there.
But apart from that, that's probably the worst experiences I had because I never reported it. I never went to a hospital about it or anything.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so not a whole lot of engagement with health services.
No.
Yeah, for you.
No,
That's right.
and it took me a while to admit that something as bad had happened and to actually do something about accessing help.
Yeah, which is, very common. And, you can understand all the reasons why someone might choose to do that. So in terms of, wanting to participate in this project, and I guess the message that you might have if you are planning to come to the digital storytelling workshop, what do you want to get across with this? What do you think is the important message in terms of people responding to violence who are also survivors themselves and have lived experience?
Do you know the type of artwork, I can't remember if it's China or Japan, where they take like a porcelain bowl or a vase or something, they break it and then they put it back together with gold, so it's got gold veins all through it?
Oh, yeah.
That's how I visualise it, in that we may have been broken in the past, but in that breaking we've become stronger and more beautiful from it.
That is an amazing
message
image.
I want to get across.
Yeah. I can even, you could have that image in your digital story. It would be amazing.
That's the plan.
Yeah. I can even picture it, it would be phenomenal. And look, that is also reflective of what I've done quite a few of these interviews now, and a lot of the people I've spoken to have said similar things, that, despite it being a horrible experience and, the trauma and all of that, that actually they feel like, because of that first-hand experience and knowledge, that they're able to be a better practitioner because of it.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think is an important message, because there's so much kind of risk management that goes around this. And, we can't possibly get people to respond to violence if they are also a survivor, and vicarious trauma and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's rubbish.
Well, it's certainly seeming that way from what people are telling me. And look, I don't doubt that maybe for some people that is the experience, but certainly the ones that have chosen to speak to me have felt very differently.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't have any particular other questions that I need to ask you. Is there anything you want to add that we haven't covered that you think is important?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
If you do think of anything, you can always email through to Kitty, and we can add it. But
yep, beautiful.
I just have a couple of demographic questions, if that's all right.
Of course.
Okay, your age?
32.
Yeah. And shall I put as your current role the Safe Steps one, even though you haven't technically started? It's very soon that you're starting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in October.
Okay. Are you, or would you rather I put what you're doing now?
The Safe Steps one's good.
Yeah. Okay. So Safe Steps. Is it technically a counsellor, or what do you call the role?
I'd probably label it more as a first responder.
Yep.
Because they're the people who are calling in, who are in the moment needing to get out quick.
The crisis. Yeah.
Yeah, crisis response team or something.
Yep. And that's Safe Steps. And what are your your training or qualifications that you've got?
So I'm currently doing a diploma in community service work.
Yep, that's right. I knew you were doing something else.
Yeah.
Diploma in community service, which is current. Yep.
I've also got a Certificate 3 in Health Services Assistance.
Yep. Health service.
What else do I have? And a Certificate 2 in Electrotechnology Servicing.
Ah, that's a bit different.
It's a bit different.
All right. And you haven't actually done any clinical or practice, but you're about to. So I'll just write about to start, about to commence role. Great. I think that's it then, Peter. Thank you so much for taking the time. So are you good for both of the days of the workshop or just the one?
I can do both.
Oh, terrific. It's much better if you can do both. We've just had a few people say they can't commit to 2 days, which I understand it is a big commitment. But if you can do the 2, it'll be really good.
Yep, definitely can do the 2.
Excellent. All right. I'll look forward to it then. I can't wait to see the beautiful image of the golden vase.
Good, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.